no secret this movie has been getting a lot of flack from critics and
Jim
kind
and
of
them.
internet buzz. And I understand there's this, if you enjoy it or like these characters, there's this knee-jerk reaction to say that, we're just Marvel fanboys or we're, buying into the hype that it's bad. And I feel like that's just an easy
We were
way.
the hype that it was bad.
My Twitter
Yeah.
cover
Before it came out.
my Twitter cover picture is Booster Gold
Yeah.
in high definition, so you can't call me a Marvel fanboy.
Yeah, I feel like that's just kind of a shit way to argue it. I feel like I will say personally, the way I know we did a whole show shitting on Man of Steel after it came out. I feel like we were the first on that bandwagon. By the way, I think a lot of people were really loving Man of Steel for a while,
and then Jim and them rolled into town.
I know now everyone kind of like shits on it, but I feel like we were kind of we were driving that bandwagon. But I swear to you, you can believe me or not, and I know we've been very critical of this movie leading up to its release. But I promise you, when I went and bought the ticket in the morning before work, just because I live like 2 minutes from the theater. So I just went over there. I figured I'd just buy the ticket in the morning.
Yeah, you said you were pumped.
I mean, I wasn't so much pumped, but I was excited.
Jim told
swear
me.
to you, I had, and partially because I get annoyed at I get annoyed at internet snarkiness a lot, even though obviously we do a show that's like internet snarky.
90% of that.
But I also get annoyed when I read these blogs and where it's like Batman's chin was cool and here's this.
Yeah,
and
I don't like dismissive snarkiness.
So when
you can be snarky, but the more dismissive you are, that just shows that you're just an asshole.
And I swear to you that seeing all that, it kind of I started siding with the movie, and I was like, you know what? This is a movie that we get to see fucking Batman and Superman in. What a cool thing. And that's I was getting in that mindset, and I was excited to go see it.
And then you're just smashed against the wall. And
I tried really, really hard to get in a better mindset. But unfortunately, and I talked about this on the show, that Cap 3 trailer really ruined this movie for me.
And Daredevil.
Because I was watching the trailers and I was like, all right, you know what? This movie's looking better and better. We saw the trailer last year in April when we were at Star Wars Celebration. That one came out. We had always been behind Ben Affleck. We were surprisingly positive for people that hated Man of Steel.
I think back in the day, I was like, yeah, this trailer looks good.
And we were always behind Ben Affleck.
The trailers looked all right, and then that Cap 3 trailer came out, and it was so good that for whatever reason, it just reminded me that, like, there's a good chance I wasn't going to like this movie, and it killed a lot of my goodwill, but I didn't go into it closed-minded.
And also,
I swear on my life I did not go into this movie closed-minded, because in my head, I was like, they literally can't make the worst movie because they already did, and it was called Man of Steel. So at the very least, I get to see how, did they take, steps forward or strides forward or flying leaps forward? I get to see how far forward they went.
And also, seeing Daredevil this week, that actually put me in a better mindset for this movie as well. More, because I didn't look at it as like, this is going to be way better than that. It was just kind of like, wow, this was cool. I'm excited to see another cool thing. I swear that's how I was looking at it.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a cool, realistic, gritty take on these comic heroes and putting it on film. I want to see more of this. Hopefully, I'm going to get a chance to see that again.
Do you guys have pros at all or no?
Well, one thing I do want to say is I do think there are some decent ideas in this movie. Some things I do like. I do feel like some of the stuff they're doing with how the world would react to a Superman is interesting and true. As far as showing pundits on TV arguing how we would be afraid but also welcome, but also where were you when this happened? Like what would people do with God?
Yeah,
where it's like, my kid got cancer. Where were you, God?
Well, she's not Lois Lane.
And then almost as like a scapegoat of when bad things happen, like, fuck you, Superman, you weren't there for me. Yeah, you were carrying me. That's what it was, one set of footprints.
There was only one set of footprints in the burning rubble of Metropolis.
So yeah, I do think there's some ideas that show promise, and I almost liked where they were coming from.
I like that one part where Superman's gas was wearing off on him, and Batman punched him 3 times. The first punch seemed like it affected him. The second one didn't, and then the third one was just like nothing. That was all right. It's the only part I liked in the whole movie. I made my pro list as well, Jeff. That was it. There it is.
I have a few pros about this movie. Ben Affleck is neither good nor bad. He just is.
Yeah, I mean, I would lean on the side of good, but also some of these people saying like he's the best saying, like,
but they don't give him much to do, so I can't really call him good.
Like
exactly, that's where I'm at. I don't. There's not enough
that's
there
what I'm saying. He's
for me
completely
to,
serviceable.
I would be interested in seeing a solo film of Ben Affleck's Batman.
I think he's fully capable of Batman.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him be Batman. I just haven't gotten to yet.
What was the point in the movie for you guys where all of this was dashed?
Well,
honestly,
against the rocks? Well, what I'll say.
We're doing non-spoiler cast, right?
Well, I mean, we're about to get into spoilers, so
the movie's out at this point.
Yeah, I mean, basically at this, I'll just say we didn't like it. I'll keep it plain. I mean, I think
it was worse than Man of Steel.
From this point on, we're probably going to get into spoilers. I kind of want to start from the beginning, though. I don't want to get too deep in towards the ending yet. So then the movie starts, and we see Batman's fucking origin again, which is it's not that big of a problem, but it's also kind of like.
It's just done to death.
We don't need to see it, and the pearls and all that good happy horse shit. But it's whatever. And honestly,
when did Batman become Batman?
Once little Bruce Wayne's being flown by the bats,
when he's surrounded by a bat whirlwind and floating up to the
well. My God.
That's when I'm like gripping my armrest, being like, oh no. I mean, I guess they explain it away that it's a dream or something.
Yeah, but still,
there's tons of dreams in this movie. There's like 8
real
dreams.
rough. Even as a dream, it's dumb as hell.
There's so many dreams, which makes a vision of the future confusing because you're not sure that's supposed to not be a dream, but kind of a dream. But then these other dreams, and then
we're coming to my first con. The editing. Oh my God! What is the editing? What's happening?
So I
the first hour of the movie. I am drunk, but I'm also like, what's happening?
I was telling my buddy Derek about this movie, and I said that it reminded me of Napoleon Dynamite, and that Napoleon Dynamite doesn't really have a story or a plot. It's just kind of like. It's a series of scenes, one after another. It's more of a camera following around these characters.
It has more of a plot than this movie.
Well, no, totally. But I just mean that it's more like there's no story. It's just like here's these characters, and it's leading up to the end, and what's going to happen until then. And that's what this movie felt like, to the point where there were just scenes where like they're in the city talking, and then it's just like flash to literally the next scene. Clark Kent's up in the mountains. Flash to the next scene. He's dressed as Superman now, and he's talking to his mom at the farm. Flash to the next. It's just like there's no continuity and there's no structure. And you yes, I'm not a moron. I can follow where things are going. But the person who edited this movie had no concept of how to have things go from one scene to another.
It's a big mess. There's so many things going on. And one thing I will say, the Bruce Wayne stuff with the Man of Steel ending. I think that works. I think that's a good idea. Although, in a weird way, it makes the Man of Steel ending way more brutal than I even thought.
Oh, yeah. We already thought it was awful. Yeah. Then we get to see, the ground floor.
Then Lieutenant Dan shows up.
But
dudes losing their legs.
But seeing Bruce Wayne run in and save people and all that is great, but then they had to make the Superman battle more sinister because it's this poor old man stuck in a building with laser eyes shooting around him and stuff being crushed.
A girl pointing to the destroyed building where her mom was and the guy losing his legs. And
I guess I missed out on a lot of the first act. I remember that.
You were there.
That's what I mean.
But anyways, I do like what they're doing, but it's weird because they make it way more brutal, kind of. And then in this weird way that makes things way more convoluted than they need to be, they throw in this desert meeting of Lois Lane and a Superman. Superman, it's a thing he bumbles that makes it where people hate him. Instead of just using the end of Man of Steel, they feel like they have to make this new event that they're arguing over, which in the movie doesn't feel like an event at all, except they keep talking about it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that thing that happened in the desert. And
Bit of trivia for you,
that guy,
Jim.
it was Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, that's Jimmy Olsen.
Was
the guy who gets
CIA
shot
agent.
at the very beginning of the
he
movie,
gets killed.
and they never say his name, and you only know because of the credits. That's
But don't
Jimmy
worry,
Olsen.
when you see the Ultimate Edition, you'll hear him say, "I'm Jimmy Olsen."
I'm
Jimmy
good.
Olsen.
The rated
Fuck.
R, the dope
Yeah.
rated R version. Hey, I'm fucking Jimmy Olsen here.
Shit, bro.
So, but just in this and the only reason why they do it, it's this hollow way of making Lois more important because Lois is on this awful B plot of investigating a bullet that we already know has something to do with Lex Luthor because we see the guy that's with Lex Luthor, like in
Yeah.
other scenes with Lex Luthor.
Oh, she could not be less important in this movie. It's crazy. Like, her involvement in this movie is baffling.
But it's just a way, like they have this scene happen, which is instead of everyone arguing over what happened in Metropolis, the end of Man of Steel, for some reason they're arguing over this thing that happened in the desert.
Yeah.
And then it's a way for
where apparently Superman showed up and shot guys
Yeah.
with bullets because everyone died by being shot. Yet they kept saying that Superman must have caused it or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's the flimsiest pretext I've ever seen.
And then it's just a way to keep Lois involved because they can cut to her as she's trying to investigate the bullet, even though we already all know it has to do with Lex Luthor. And I feel like we talked a lot. So I do want to turn to Rodney here because to get kind of the initial before we get deeper into the movie, your initial thoughts of the movie and what you liked about it for a counterpoint.
All right. Well, I mean, the movie. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and say it was the greatest movie. It wasn't.
And before you continue, every person that likes this movie says this.
Everyone, it's
I
like,
don't mean to put
it's
you on
like the
blast.
Man of
No, it
Steel.
wasn't.
It's like a
It
woman
wasn't.
defending her husband after he beat her up. She's like, no, listen, he's not always the best guy, but you guys don't know him when the doors are closed.
But yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry,
I didn't mean to
Rodney.
cut you off.
No, it's just look, just like Jeff said, the editing. I even told Jeff this last night. That was my biggest issue with the movie was the editing. How it jumped around from.
It's very confusing.
It kind of jumped from one point. It jumped from a scene with Lex Luthor to all of a sudden it shows Ben Affleck in a party or something. So
Yeah, it just jumped all
I
over.
think the editing, it was done very shitty. And I think when that R-rated edition comes out, which is like 3 hours long or something, it's gonna kind of meet those beats that it missed as far as the editing and all these jumpy
You don't
scenes.
think that's just
but
like a
I
joke,
think-
like that R-rated one? Like they're not just gonna like put in
Apparently,
shits and
it's real because
it's supposed to be violence and language.
it's violence and language is why they made it rated R. It's not like sex or anything like that.
Well, I just
Bruce
mean like,
banging
isn't it gonna be
anything.
like, oh fuck, Batman? Shit.
I hope so.
Like that's my
I hope so.
my R-rated cut's 4
My
hours long.
fucking leg!
They're gonna have.
Fuck.
You're gonna see Clark Kent fuck Lois in the tub.
Hey, where's your
In the
mom?
tub.
She points up there. She goes,
English patient fucking.
my mom's up there. She's fucking dead. Oh no.
But no, I mean like what you guys were saying, like the whole Africa thing in the beginning. I think the main reason why they did that, and at least made that entire thing part of the movie, is just because they just want to make it seem like, hey, Lois is in trouble. Superman's gonna pop up regardless. Which in the latter part of the movie, it does kind of show, hey, when Lois is in trouble, he's going to pop up regardless. I mean, they're in the middle of fucking Africa, and he pops up out of nowhere for Christ's sake. So,
Fair enough.
I mean, I think that's why they made that particular plot line, and obviously the whole reason why they did it kind of goes a little bit towards the end of the movie.
I think I
think that's the reason why they did it, though.
She was a victim
And-
of a movie that didn't need her, but they had to have her because she exists.
Yeah.
And so they're like, I guess we'll just make this garbage.
And I mean, we as an audience, we obviously know Lex Luthor's a villain. This movie, weirdly enough, always has to point out that Lex Luthor's his son and he's Lex Luthor's son, but it doesn't matter. Like, I know
it's
people
so
can be like, hey,
confused.
trivia, did you know that that's not actually Lex Luthor? That's Lex Luthor Jr. It's like, no, this is the bald Lex Luthor that fights Superman. Whether he's Lex Luthor Jr. or Lex Luthor Sr., he's Lex Luthor. He's the Lex Luthor we know.
I wondered when I was watching this movie, like, if you say you went into this cold and you know, like, you like Superman or you're a big Batman fan, you don't know anything about Lex Luthor.
Well, that's
I think
what I was
you'd
going to
be-
say.
Oh, okay,
like,
yeah.
that's what I was getting to is that I don't know. We know he's bad, and then the movie just assumes you know he's bad.
Everything
Because-
about this
in my
movie
con
assumes
list.
that you know who Lex Luthor is because they just treat him like you walked in here like as an expert.
Because
Yeah.
I don't need. Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
Oh, it's amazing. One of my cons is who the fuck is Lex Luthor? Are we supposed to know who he is from the comics?
Yeah, because it's like
Does Lex Luthor live in Zod's ship?
I don't need everything spelt out. Like, but Lex Luthor knows who Superman is. I guess he kind of knows who Batman is.
He implies he does, but they don't explain anything.
Is Lex Luthor...
Lex Luthor also gives the Flash his name and his logo. He gives Aquaman his name and his logo. And he basically gives them all the heroes their names.
All that happened while I was in the bathroom?
Aquaman.
Yes, Jeff was in the bathroom when...
I missed every cameo.
You missed the laptop.
This is... I mean, we're jumping... we're jumping quite a bit ahead in the movie. We'll come back, but... Yes, because later on, and my girlfriend was shitting on this too. She's like, it was so weird that Batman sent Wonder Woman an email.
Dude. And wasn't
the way it kept scrolling
because
to
the email was
things.
like, who are you? And then like she'd scroll down and be like, really, I want to know who you are. Scrolls down.
Who are
Won't you just tell me who you are? And it's like, who writes an email like this?
This is how it went. Like, she read the line and it was like, found that picture you were looking for. Then she sees the picture, scrolls down. It's not your picture. It is you. And then like beat scrolls down. Who are you?
Yeah. Jim and I were laughing so hard at that.
I almost love that because like that's Batman not having social skills.
Well,
so
and then also,
he
like,
just keeps emailing her.
What is Wonder Woman's email? Is it just wonder@woman?
Whoa, woman.
Wonder@woman.net.
And then because there's this file and it has the Aquaman logo and the Flash logo. And you see...
And the Cyborg
Oh,
logo.
it's Wonder Woman at Amazon.com.
Oh.
Swish. Amazon.co, dude.
Swish. So yeah, that was silly. And then so cutting back to it, yeah. So we have this Lois thing, the Africa thing, and then Batman's mad, of course. Which I do like this. I do like this idea. I do like this idea what they're doing. That Batman thinks this is bullshit, and he doesn't want. I mean, this is something they played up in the comics, like. He doesn't want someone that has too much power, but someone needs to keep him in check. That all makes sense. Except then Batman murders everyone. Batman is always killing people in this movie.
Batman loves
the
murder.
Entire movie
and guns.
But by the way, if people are confused, this isn't like that suspend your disbelief type murder where like Batman drops a guy off a building or wrecks a car, and you can, if you wanted, you can say he didn't die. He was in a wrecked car. Batman doesn't do that. It literally vaporizes cars people are in, or shoots people with actual machine guns, or stabs them in the heart with knives.
Yeah.
Like, Batman kills everyone in this movie, and even crazier, the movie doesn't treat that like it's weird at all. The movie treats it like, oh, Batman's a good guy and he's killing bad guys, because that's what good guys do.
And that's a great point, because my issue isn't Batman killing people. I mean, I would prefer, it doesn't make sense, I'd prefer you not doing it.
Guns.
But you can... I wouldn't be against it if it felt like it was something, if there was something behind it. Because it really doesn't make sense, because Batman's mad at Superman for shit, and then Superman for some reason doesn't like Batman.
Well, yeah, by the way, that was going to be my next point.
They're both murderers.
They gave Superman no reason to dislike Batman.
Yeah.
When he shows up and says like, by the way, this is the fucking stupidest thing where he's like, stop being Batman or I'll kill you.
Well,
he literally shows up in Gotham, wrecks the Batmobile and says, stop being Batman or I'll kill you. And he has no reason to do that.
Well,
zero incentive.
Actually, the reason why he's doing it is because they not only does Batman's
killing everyone.
Because not only does Batman murder people himself, but he also brands people so they'll get murdered in prison. And I think that's what Superman doesn't like about him.
Superman's the biggest murderer
That's
of them
what
all.
I mean. Because, like, that's the thing. You can have one of them be a murderer, but you have to have the other one not. So there's some sort of conflict. Because in a way, they're both like, fuck everyone. We don't give a shit. And then they're like, well, I don't like you. Well, I don't like you either.
But yeah, Batman just spends the whole movie killing everybody.
That brings me to one of my cons here. This movie is no fun. And it's a movie about Batman fighting Superman. How can that not be fun?
Well, and Jim, you're right, because they could have given it like someone got mad at me on Twitter because I made a joke about Batman killing people.
This is a spoiler, right?
And first off, he's being a moron. Like, fucking settle down, clown. Like, that's not a spoiler in any way or shape or form. But I know what he was thinking, because in his head, he either thought that I was referencing that, like, this is an old grizzled Batman who's decided he's allowed to kill or something. There are reasons why you could justify a Batman who's made this decision. But this movie has decided that Batman hasn't made a decision, that Batman is a good guy. And bad guys are bad. So since Batman's good, he should kill. Like in Uncharted and in Tomb Raider, like you end the game having killed thousands of people. But it's okay because you're the main character and they're all bad guys, right?
Yeah.
That's how this movie treated Batman. Batman's a good guy, so it's okay when he grabs the bad guy's machine gun and shoots all his pals because he's a good guy. Why is it bad to kill bad guys?
And I want to get to Rodney on this, so I just want to make one last point because the other reason why this stuck out so much is because coming off of Daredevil season 2. Where they have like great, not only like action fights between, like it's basically Daredevil versus Punisher for a lot of it, and not only just actual fights, but then dialogue between two characters that have a legit beef of like, you shouldn't be like this, and it's like, well, hey, you're almost me, and a back and forth, and it almost made this look way worse in comparison because you don't get why they're doing this, except I feel like this movie, they just, in the beginning, you know how they showed that thing at Comic-Con, like the scene that's in the movie where Batman's in his shit, and he's got the bat signal and Superman shows up pissed off. I feel like they just had that idea and they're like, how are we going to make this movie? But anyway, we've shit on it a lot. We'll give you a chance to kind of give your thought.
Everyone?
All right.
I saw you nodding your head when we brought that up. Like you kind of agree with us that that's weird.
It was weird. It was weird that he. I mean, first off, we all know he's done it in the comics before, so it's not like it's out the fucking blue moon that he does that.
Well, it's out the blue moon that he kills someone, not everybody. He kills everyone in this movie.
He doesn't. That's the thing. He doesn't. Yeah, he blows up cars. Fine, they're fucking dead.
Dude, he shoots people with guns. He shoots people with machine guns.
He didn't shoot anybody. Okay, you're talking about that. No, you're talking about that dream sequence.
No. He does in the dream sequence, and then again he wakes up and there's a chain gun on his Batwing and on his car, and he's shooting actual people with those guns.
He shot at the cars. Cars blew up. Yeah, they fucking died.
That's what Zack Snyder saying. He's saying it's manslaughter. It's not like murder.
But during real fights, no,
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the warehouse scene.
Yeah,
like that was in the in that scene, and I specifically looked for this the second time I saw the movie. He grabbed the dude's arm, had him in some kind of hold. The guy started shooting the gun. Big fucking deal. Batman didn't have the. Batman. As far as stabbing a guy, he stabbed the dude in the shoulder. It wasn't the heart.
I thought
it wasn't like this. It wasn't in the neck. It wasn't in the neck.
I agree. I know that he didn't stab him in the heart. I know he didn't kill him with the knife.
But it's so weird still.
Yeah, I mean, in a quick action scene, it's gonna look like holy shit. Batman grabbed the fucking gun.
But in general, like Batman, I'm not saying he's never killed anyone, but Batman's thing is I don't want to kill people and I shouldn't kill people, and he kills a shitload of people in this movie, and he knows he's doing it. Like the Punisher knows he's doing it, and he knows it's wrong. Batman is just fucking like it's not that suspension of disbelief where he wrecks a car and you can go, the person probably survived. He vaporizes the car. He shoots the guy's flamethrower knowing that the guy will explode. Not dude, Batman is actively trying to kill these people.
Well, and he's also
so un-Batman.
He also brands people.
But what are you comparing that to? That's the thing, though. What are you comparing that?
I'm comparing it to the history of Batman.
Yeah.
In what? Because he's killed in plenty of novels. He's killed in the Dark Knight Returns. He's killed in a lot of things.
Literally, the Dark Knight Returns
is about him
struggling with the idea that he doesn't want to kill the Riddler, to kill Joker. Like the worst guy of all time is him struggling with the idea that he might have to kill him. Like Batman, I'm not saying he's never killed anyone, but this movie is a massacre compared to any situation in history of Batman where anyone's ever been killed. It's one or two people.
And you're comparing it to the 1988 Tim Burton in the.
No, I'm comparing it to all Batman.
Yeah, because
all Batman runs, all versions of Batman, his killing is kept to a very, very low level, and on purpose, because he himself believes that he should try to avoid that. And in this movie, there is a complete reckless disregard for anyone's safety and anyone's life, and he is super down to kill. In fact, sometimes it seems like he wants to kill.
Yeah, but you have to look at it like this. It's different. Fucking... The Tim Burton Batman came out the year I was fucking born in '88.
No, I'm not even talking about the movies. Different. I'm talking about everything, man. Everything.
But
it's a different time though, and even some of the comics are a little bit more graphic than they were 20 years ago. You can't compare the older stuff to the newer stuff. But you can't say
that seemed like Batman.
Perfect example. What about you look at the old Rambo movies with Sylvester Stallone, and you look at the new one that came out like 5-6 years ago. But it's way more fucking violent than the older stuff.
True,
because it's a newer time.
But people would probably go, "Wow, that's not like Rambo at all," because it's not.
But we're also coming off of a Batman Begins trilogy where he kills Raj or whatever, but we didn't have to see Batman mow down a bunch of people for those to be interesting or make that an interesting character.
And you can have
and to your point, like
he killed a bunch of ninjas in Batman Begins when he set it on fire.
But either way, to your point, even that it's not like he's running in freely murdering people. Like and to your point, anyways, like I was saying, it's not quite my issue that he's killing people. I think you can do that, but when you've already made Superman kill people and then you make Batman kill people, it's just not interesting anymore.
Well,
because there's
Superman.
not a real conflict anymore. You just have two murderers who, for whatever reason, don't like each other.
Yeah, we were talking about, because we were doing the Watch This About Daredevil, and one of my favorite things in Daredevil is when they're both, him and the Punisher are fighting, and Daredevil keeps stopping the Punisher from killing people, like with like asides.
I mean, I know, and honestly, yes, I'm sure you could pick a lot of times where Batman's probably killed people. You could pick a lot of times where Superman's killed people. But it's still like the overall idea is that these are heroes that don't kill for the most part.
Well, and that's Batman's whole point in this movie is he's not the killing guy.
Unless you want to make it, you can make it interesting if you. I don't know. I don't feel like they're making it interesting. If they had something to say.
It just felt like someone who didn't understand the characters, because I understand you can have takes on characters, but if you were going to bullet point characters, one of Batman's things is he doesn't want to kill people. He tries not to kill people, and this movie is full of that. And again, with guns, he hates guns, and he's using guns all the time. He has a gun in his hand, like in the iconic section where it's Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman. He's fucking holding a gun in his hand.
It's totally different.
It's a fucking gun. It's still a gun. It's like he has a gun in this whole movie.
He had the same thing in The Dark Knight.
This whole movie. He has a gun.
Man, come on.
No, you're being a huge apologist right now. You're just making excuses for this movie.
You're
just making huge excuses for this movie.
It's not an excuse. It's what it is, though. It's a fact.
I can't. No, okay.
I missed it,
but I'm with you because if Zack Snyder, if I felt Zack Snyder and David Goyer had something they wanted to say and explore about a hero who kills people, I'm fine with it. If it serves the story. Even though it's not widely held that these characters kill people, if it makes sense because it's like, well, you know, he's going through this or he's doing that. And I know a lot of people can make excuses because I've seen people on Twitter already and stuff that are like, nah, Batman snapped because the Riddler killed Robin. And it's like, that's not real. I mean, I'm sorry, Joker. But that's not on the screen, really. If
the movie could have easily sold this Batman as a guy who had decided, no, fuck this is how I deal with it now. But the movie doesn't tell you that. They want us to guess that, and it's not insinuated in any way.
That's you filling in. That's people filling in gaps.
Well, it's a weird flip flop because the beginning of the movie is him mad at Superman for killing all these people, and then now he's using like it into means.
And I guess like the closest, if this movie if one of them was a hero, I would be fine with the other one being more of an anti-hero. But they're both, in a way, anti-heroes. Like, they kind of begrudgingly have a montage of Superman saving people, and you feel like they didn't want to have that. Because it's not really interesting. Like, you know, he catches a rocket, and he, you know, saves people. They don't even show him save the people on the roof.
He's just staring at the people
staring at them. Like, it's very, like, Zack Snyder does not want any part of that, but I felt like he's like, fine, we'll fucking put some shit in.
Well, they already fucked up by making Superman Batman in the first movie.
That's exactly.
Like, they already made him dark.
I feel like
Batman.
that's exactly, because it's almost Batman versus Batman. And the closest thing you have to a hero, I suppose, is Wonder Woman. But only because she's not in it that much. And again, I don't know. You can get away with it. I feel like it's kind of minutia. I get you can pull references saying that he does kill. You can pull plenty of references that say that he doesn't.
To the character at all.
But it's just if it's not there, I just don't buy it. I just don't. There's nothing there convincing me that it's needed besides like. This would look cool. Like, imagine if Batman shot the car and it blew up. What if he shot the guy with the grenade?
It felt like a movie maker making a movie and just going like, that's a thing. Well, that doesn't matter to me. I'm making the movie, so that doesn't matter. And that's what bothers me. There's no idea behind it. There was no creativity behind it. It was just someone ignoring arguably a large defining factor behind a character. Just ignoring it because they were like, it doesn't work in my movie, so I'm just going to ignore it.
But I get it. I mean, I get that, you know, these are like... at this point, almost like ancient characters. I mean, I know it's all relative, but Especially the memes compared to memes. So you know you do have to update them a bit. So I understand. I understand that, but I don't feel like they made their case properly. I don't feel like it's there in the movie where you understand it. I can understand the people like, and the same with like going back to the Man of Steel when he kills Zod. If there was a little bit more in that fight of Superman saving people and struggling with the idea of having to kill Zod, I wouldn't care that much. It's not the fact that he kills. It's just that he doesn't give a shit, and it just doesn't feel like anything. Because even in this movie, I thought they could have fixed it, because some people have been like, well, no, he yells. He's sad that he had to do it in Man of Steel. So, and if in this movie he was still kind of struggling with, I had to fucking kill somebody, what the fuck? Am I a hero? What am I? But in this movie, he's just kind of like, hey, you know,
he
I'm gonna smash a guy through a wall.
He seems annoyed that people don't like him.
Yeah,
like he doesn't seem concerned or relatable or disappointed. He honestly seems annoyed the whole movie. He's like, why don't people like me? This is why. He just seems like super annoyed with everybody.
And I do want to get to the. I thought it was cool. It's like a cool comic booky thing that they did with having, like, I guess, what is it, Flashpoint Flash? Is that because basically
the weird Iron Man costume
and
Flash?
I love that no one understood what was going on there.
Yeah, because he's like,
I mean,
it's almost like this movie needed some sort of setup instead of being the
or
setup.
at least some sort of little bit more of a payoff to later on, like understanding.
Because like, even people like us were like, I think that's the Flash.
That's the one cameo I saw.
And because there's all these dream sequences, so then you think it's another dream sequence,
There's
but
so many
it's
dreams.
technically a vision of like the future that could happen.
Which gets no payoff, by the way, because it's all about Lois and none of that stuff actually happens.
But that's an idea I do like. I like that they did it, and it's it's something you would read in a Superman, Batman comic, and it has potential to pay off later. But it's Amazing Spider-Man all over again. It's like they're building up all this shit with nothing like in the here and now, at least to keep you hooked.
Well, they're chasing the Marvel movies. Instead of making your movie good, they're too concerned with building a universe. This movie wasn't about making a good movie. This movie was about building a universe, and it shows because the movie wasn't very good.
Well,
like if you don't care about making a good movie, it's not going to be good. If your whole point, that's what a lot of people had the problem with Age of Ultron, is that. Yeah. Joss Whedon was stretched in a million directions because this movie had to
up all this
set things
shit.
up, and so it suffered, and a lot of people didn't like it as much. And in this, it's just that times 100 because it has even less of a setup, and it just has to tell you a bunch of things. So it's like, of course, it's not going to be good at that stuff because that wasn't even the goal of the movie.
But I do want to give Rodney more of an opportunity. I don't want to keep interrupting you. How do you feel as far as the universe is concerned, and like what they're setting up, and like if they're nailing it, or how you feel about that?
I mean, as far as the universe is getting set up, it seems like you can kind of see where they're going as far as things like with the whole Wonder Woman thing with the, this picture's from 1918, so that's clearly going to be in the movie that's going to come out next year. And
well, what's his name was in the Pines character was in the picture.
Yeah, he was in that picture, wasn't he?
I mean, I think how they're
Chris
setting
Pine.
it. I mean, I think how they're setting it up. I like the way they're doing it just for the only because it's different than Marvel. If they sat there and said, "Hey, we're gonna make this Superman movie, now we're gonna make a Batman movie, now we're gonna make a Wonder Woman movie, and now we're gonna make a Flash movie," it's gonna be like, "Hey, you're doing what Marvel's doing, bro."
Yeah.
And it's gonna be like, so I'm kind of okay with them doing it in the
quoting
reverse.
me.
Oh. Was that a good Jeff impression?
Wait, that was you? I was looking at the screen.
Well, this has all been very negative from you guys. Wow. So let's go back to my pros list, and it relates to this. The cameos were nearly non-existent for me, completely non-existent.
Yeah, Jeff
you didn't see it.
completely.
For you,
missed them.
they were
Which
still
is nice.
small.
That's nice that they, because I expected like, here's Cyborg. Hello, I'm Cyborg, and then
They were still very
Aquaman's, like,
small,
glowering
but-
at him.
Yeah, you missed almost all of them.
Aquaman's cameo was awful.
Was it?
It's his glowing eyes, then he kind of like floats forward.
He's just like staring at the camera,
acting all
fizzing
weird.
for a
I
bit.
absolutely
He eventually
thought-
stabs it, but it was weird and lingering.
Well, to go back to one of my cons, I absolutely thought Batman's spear, which was his major weapon, his spear, when it fell in the water,
I said that to Mike. I go, "Is Aquaman gonna show up with the spear?"
yeah,
and fucking,
like, you're Batman. You show up in a robot suit, but you have a spear? What are you doing?
And it's great because when it came out, Mike, didn't you hear somebody talking about Flashpoint's little cameo?
Oh
And
yeah,
then
so someone was some guy. Two guys were walking out. They're like, "Yo, I'm pretty sure that guy in that weird nightmare, that was Robin. It looked like Robin." Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Robin.
like,
and
no.
another guy's like, "Oh yeah, it was like Robot Robin, I think." And I was just like, this is what this movie does to people. They have no idea that that's just the Flash.
That's kind of the problem. Like on one hand, I enjoy shorthand where like in Deadpool. we don't have to tell you what the Xavier School of Gifted Children is. We don't have to tell you what mutants are and what the X-Men are.
But when your thing is a guy popping out a portal,
in a movie where that seems so strange and out of place,
like a dark, gritty, realistic movie. Also, it's like, you must stop there.
Wasn't it weird that was like 35 minutes in the movie? It was so early in the movie.
That was one of my early Home Alone moments where I put my hands to my face and looked at you.
Yeah, guys. That was the craziest thing to me is that happened so early in the movie that it felt like an odd place to put that
I thought
scene.
maybe it was going to happen so early because he was going to, something else, whether it be show up or just Bruce Wayne realizes what that means. But I mean, it doesn't mean anything in this movie at all because at the end of the movie, Superman's dead.
And you don't know the actor, you don't know who it is, you don't again, it looked like an Iron Man suit. I know it was their Flashpoint suit, but it didn't look like a Flashpoint suit. I only knew it was a Flash because I had common sense as a comic book fan, but most people were probably even more confused about that than they were about Lex Luthor.
And they completely fucked up showing Doomsday in the trailer. They tried to backtrack. I remember like what Zack Snyder would be like, well, no, there's more to it than that.
But
then you see the movie and it's
so confused by it.
Not. Well, did he just mean the second phase of him?
Yeah.
To go to my
when he went all Frieza?
Oh, you got his cons list.
So does Lex Luthor live in Zod's ship?
Kind
because
of.
He's always like waiting around in
there.
The water.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I mean, it was probably the editing again, but like they keep cutting back.
Well, yeah,
to him.
because that's the thing of how Lex Luthor knows who everyone is, but he also, I mean, I know he accessed the Kryptonian archives, so he learned stuff.
He got access because he shoved that Jolly Rancher in that dude's mouth. Yeah. Remember when he did that? Remember when he did that cool thing?
Yeah, that was a very strange
Remember how cool that was?
It's like they show him access the database. But then in the next scene, he just knows how to bring Doomsday.
Actually, I had a real question for you, Rodney. I did not catch this during the movie, and having seen it a second time, maybe you know. What about him putting his blood on Zod makes Doomsday? Is that actually explained, or are we just sort of along for the ride? Because I genuinely don't know that, and I feel like a second watch through might actually answer that question if it's in the movie. Did you catch that at all?
I mean, essentially what they do is when Lex is in there and he's kind of in that pool and he brings Zod's body in there. They sit there and the little computer thing, or I didn't even catch the name of the fucking computer.
Well, because they're talking back and forth, like they're saying like lore and like things that
they're sitting here. I guess if you remember in the earlier scene, when Lex first gets to the Kryptonian site, the computer says there's 100,000 data files, and he says, "Tell me all of them." So then, kind of going into this scene, they sit there and they bring in Zod's body, and then the computer says, we're not going to do any like type of mutation because the council said it's banned. And
so it's implied that earlier when the computer explained everything to him, it must have taught him how to do this?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, I completely missed that because that was super because they were talking verbiage and lore like I was supposed to understand it.
I got that, but it was just so fast. And for the movie this long and for how much time is just wasted, like the trailer, I mean... trailers, you can't blame the movie for trailers, but they focus on this Senate thing so much and it goes nowhere and makes no sense.
But isn't it funny though, by the way?
Brings it to my con, the piss jar.
Yeah, there's a jar.
Well, let's talk about the piss jar in one sec.
Because Jeff was drunk and he's like, it's a jar of piss. But then it ended up really being a jar of piss.
Yeah, no. Well, so really quick.
No, I was drunk and I said, "Whose piss is that?"
Yeah, that's what it was. It's Aquaman's piss.
So during the part where Lex Luthor's getting into the ship, and maybe this is just me being a piece of shit, but like, did you think it was dumb that he literally just cut off the fingertips? And this Krypton technology is just like, fucking fair enough. We'll let you in.
Yeah,
like that's good enough for us. These fingertips on your fingers with glue.
Yeah.
Like
Max
Elmer's
Landis,
glue.
get in here, whatever. Fuck it. That's what he was doing when he was shaving the fingers off?
Yeah,
because he walks up with all the fingers.
I'm so confused.
So the piss jar. The crazy thing about the piss jar is the piss jar alone.
Well, explain the piss
seems
jar.
Like, so first off, this lady who
she makes a comment of like, he's like, "Can I call you blah blah?" And then she's like, "You can call a jar of piss iced tea or something like that."
Yeah, but it doesn't
make
So and when she says that, it's dumb. It's so dumb.
But then it pays off later.
Yeah, but then they call back to it. So after she says she grew up on a farm, she knows how to wrestle a pig, which another great line.
Later on, a pig shows up and she wrestles
the pig
right into a piss.
So she's sitting there, and everyone notices Lex Luthor's not sitting in his chair, and she looks over, and she sees a jar of piss. And now everyone in the audience, maybe I'm wrong, Jim. I assumed that was clearly, maybe it wasn't piss, but it was clearly Lex Luthor leaving a jar of something to make her think about what she had said earlier.
I didn't make the connection until she turned it and saw the label.
Okay, so then I am not taking a shot at you right now.
Yeah.
I was sitting there looking at this movie going like, is this movie seriously going to spell it out for us? Like, it is so obvious that this is a callback to that.
I didn't, because, I mean, I thought the line was dumb, but because I thought, like, oh, it's a jar of piss as a joke. So I didn't think like, oh, they would actually have a jar of piss.
Then I yelled it.
Even that aside, even once you realize it, the movie spends a long time with her like nervous about the piss.
Yeah, they could if she just looked at it and turned it immediately, it would have been fine.
But it's like her talking for like 20 seconds.
She looks at it again,
stammers, stumbles over her words, then she turns it and she looks at it some more, and then she thinks, and then she looks at it and then she's like, ah, and then she notices Luke and she's like looking at the piss again, and it's like, why is this movie spending so much time elaborating on this callback to the piss?
I would love if the explosion happened and the piss hit Superman in the face.
And honestly, they blew a great opportunity because Superman is such a piece of shit in this movie.
Yeah.
Like you don't like him.
He's
he
big,
feels
whiny
like he feels like he doesn't like anyone.
Oh, he's so unlikable.
He only likes Lois. This would have been a perfect opportunity, like, because when Superman shows up, he's annoyed that he's there. He's like, oh, fucking bullshit. They could have had a moment where he just gave some cool monologue.
Yeah,
about,
I thought he was gonna say something.
Well, even in the trailers when they showed him going into court and stuff,
it's set up so perfect for him to just say a few things to be like, now I get why this is Superman and maybe why he doesn't like Batman or whatever. But instead, it's just they focus on the piss a lot, and then everything blows up.
Yeah, and so that they focus on the piss for like a minute and a half, and then the whole courtroom blows up, and then it's over, and all those characters are gone forever.
Well, guys, don't get me wrong. I'm a piss boy at heart. I love piss. I'm a big piss fan. But even I was like, why is there so much piss? I think I was yelling at
you go, is
there
that
was a
piss?
lot of piss.
And then like it's quiet. Dude, by the way, in this scene of the movie, it is dead silent. The whole movie's super quiet.
No,
she's looking at the piss.
Homer whispered
and then Jeff goes, whose piss is it? and then she's turning the jar, and then it's dead quiet again, and Jeff goes, is it Aquaman's piss?
Yeah.
And he's like yelling.
People are loving me.
He thinks he's whispering, and he's yelling at
I'm
everyone.
doing the Homer Simpson whisper.
Everyone is so mad at him.
No one was loving
People were really mad at him.
Good.
And I know that because when a kid said something funny, everyone in the theater laughed at it. No one laughed at you once. So I know the theater was capable of it, and you never got it.
So yeah, then everything blows up, and then you think maybe it was like a plot to make Superman look bad, but then immediately everyone's like, well, clearly Superman didn't do this.
No, that's not the case. I mean, when they went to the whole reporters like CNN and all these fucking real news reporters, they sat there and kept asking, Superman involved? Was he involved? And so there was that thing.
More,
yeah, did they push
there
it
was also
that way?
people
No.
being like, the man, suicide bomber, did it with his wheelchair. Like they like maybe quickly made it seem like people thought Superman did it, but then they quickly were like, you know, it was tracked down to the legless man with the wheelchair.
Wait, did that guy kill them?
Yeah,
because
he had a bomb.
Lex
that chair.
Lex did it. Lex put the bomb in the
Oh,
chair. That's why
but
he
the
wasn't
guy
there.
didn't do it, right? Like it was distracting.
I mean,
or
it's
it
left
wasn't
up
part
to
of
you.
it?
I mean, I guess you could think the guy knew all along.
I was under the
or-
impression the guy knew.
I was under the impression he didn't know.
Well,
Which, by the way,
I
is
think
funny
he
about
knew.
that scene when the guy comes in and Lex has the wheelchair and he's sitting in the wheelchair and he turns around in the wheelchair and he goes, "Here you go." And then they show
Yeah,
the
then
wheelchair,
the next
and then
scene
the
he
next
turns
scene is like a different room, but that exact same camera angle, and then it's the guy sitting in the chair, and then he turns around at the same speed as Lex did earlier, and I was like, "What the fuck am I watching?"
Because even if the guy knew, then he's just an idiot. Because it's like, did he think it would hurt Superman?
and
'Cause
also,
clearly
and
it wasn't going to hurt.
if you're going to do
Superman.
something to make it look like Superman did something, where in the beginning of the movie a bunch of guys get shot and somehow Superman's blamed, but they're shot with bullets, and then this is a big explosion, and again, like neither of these things feel like things you could blame on Superman very easily.
He's always exploding.
But the movie has all these people that feel like even in the movie's realm, it feels like these people are stretching when they blamed him. And I just took it as like these are like tabloid type people that are going to blame him for anything no matter what. So I'm not supposed to believe that people actually think Superman had anything to do with the explosion.
even the
I'm just
tabloid
supposed to
people-
believe that the tabloids do.
But even the tabloid people were like, it was in the man's wheelchair. Like I remember they specifically showed
Yeah,
like
they
Nancy
mentioned
Grace.
Well, but
Yeah,
that's what I'm
mentioned
saying.
that,
That's what
yeah.
makes the whole thing just not make sense at all.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's never really clear like what's going on there or what they were trying to do. It was just kind of extraneous scenes that didn't really need to be in it.
Have we brought up how awful Perry White is the whole movie?
I didn't really notice. I mean, maybe because the movie
I
was
thought
so
he was
bad
distracting because he's always just walking in and be like, I'm saying a thing, and I'm a piece of shit.
Well, no, he was always there to tell us that it's not the old days. And I think that was very on purpose.
Because
he was always
I thought
like,
he was awful.
He's always like, idealism's the worst, and Kansas and old America is
Well, he was
nothing.
always yelling, and
this is the new world.
He'd say things that should have been one-liners, but then he'd also say the thing that you say that's implied after the one-liner.
Yeah.
He'd actually say it. I thought he was awful. I thought he was horrible.
Yeah, I guess I didn't. I thought there were so many of the worst things that didn't really stick out to me too much.
One thing that I feel like, if we can bring it back to my cons list real quick, is Jesse Eisenberg. We've seen you in movies. We've seen you act. We know you can act. Why did you take a big frothy glass?
I didn't think he was bad.
I
didn't think he was bad.
I didn't think he was bad.
I don't
Fuck
think
you, Jim.
I don't think he's bad. I think their version of Lex Luthor is atrocious, and you can only do so much with what you're given.
I think he was doing. I think they wanted Joker Lex Luthor, and he was just giving them Joker Lex Luthor.
He gave them the best.
I don't
he
think
had.
it was like him doing something.
Don't get me
wrong.
wrong. Lex Luthor was bad. He was awful, and he did. I don't like their version. I don't like their take. I don't like the things they made him say, the way he made him act. But Jesse Eisenberg, I mean, you can only do so much.
He's just a vessel. He's kind of like Ben Affleck. Like he's not bad.
Like,
but he's a
I'm not
vessel
going to
for
blame
their
Ben
bad
Affleck, and I'm
dialect.
not going to blame
All right,
Jesse
I guess I'll
Eisenberg.
take that.
Yeah, because I don't really like their version of Luther. I guess I just
What
I'm saying is I don't
established
blame.
that he was the son? Because I'm confused.
He said
At the
it a
very
few
begin- at
times.
the very
He says it
beginning
a
when
few
they-
times. Like
and
my
who's
dad.
Lex Luthor?
In the very beginning, when they first meet the senators, both the chick and the dude, he says, "Hi, I'm Alexander Luthor, but the Lex is my father."
Yeah.
And
He
so
keeps
they
calling himself
establish
Alexander,
that-
and he keeps talking about his dad's
Yeah.
room. And
So they reference that he's the son. I mean, they're gonna still call him Lex Luthor because that's what the fucking world knows him as.
it's
so-
where the first piss,
it's
that
weird.
piss conversation happens, where there's the painting. It's like, maybe I could change one thing in my dad's room. Piss jar.
I feel like they were only doing that because they thought they cast too young. But if anything, in this day and age, you could have had.
Be like the Apple.
What's
I
the
feel
difference
like,
between that and Mark Zuckerberg? And that's why.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like,
That's why I
if
think
they
they
had
tried
just,
to
but I feel like
image
they
him
were
off
only
of-
trying to over-explain it of like this is why he has so much money and power because of his dad.
What about when they shaved his head?
But
It was
I
like,
guess
nice.
they also tried to tie it in with why he hated why he hated Superman because Superman's a god and his dad beat him up all the time.
And that was the
God,
problem.
when did
I
he
feel
do
like that was a real flimsy thing. Is the why this movie's Lex has it in for Superman outside of the fact that he thinks the same thing Batman thinks. Like, why are we cool with this guy that could kill us at any point in time?
Yeah.
But the movies seem to imply that there's more to it than that without actually telling us, or it thought it was telling us. I don't know. I didn't think they did a good job on that either.
And I mean, I'm still baffled on like how he even knew. Like, they had this like flimsy scene of Batman hacking in and getting his files, but then he just had the files somehow, and I don't know. I guess it's because he's so powerful. I don't know. It just wasn't.
Well, in the room with
there.
all the files is just like a single flight of stairs away from the room where the party's at.
Well, it's right near the
and right next
near
to the kitchen.
Mexicans. Yeah,
the Mexican-filled kitchen.
Isn't it weird
There's
that
no security on it at all. And
everything we've talked about, we haven't even gotten to the fight between Batman and Superman because that's what this
Well, it
movie
took forever.
is.
It took forever to get
so
to.
long to get there, and the fight's fine. It's whatever. Like it's cool. The fight, actually, that's in my pros. The fight is whatever. It's fine.
it's serviceable. I mean,
But
it's not bad. It's not great.
The only part I liked was that part I brought up earlier. I thought that was cool where Superman's like the kryptonite's wearing off, and you see like Batman punch him, and he kind of like reacts. Then he punches him again, and it's kind of like he punched like a punching bag, and then he punches him a third time, and it's like you hit a brick wall. I thought that one moment was pretty cool.
Even before the fight, that scene that's in the teaser that we shit on a lot, where the Batmobile crashes into Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't Superman help Batman? Because like, isn't that when they like smuggle in kryptonite or whatever?
Oh, the white Portuguese.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're doing all this bad stuff, but then Superman's just standing there for some
Later.
reason.
Well, and
like,
it-
Well, that's
and he
because I
doesn't
think
give-
Superman's too dumb and he just didn't know what was going on. He just wanted to stop Batman at that point.
I did
I
make the
guess.
joke earlier, but I'm genuinely confused. Why did Superman go there and threaten to kill Batman? Like, why does he think that? Why is that okay?
Okay, this is one of my biggest issues with the movie that I had.
Nice.
I feel.
Nice.
Thumbs up, Jeff.
You have an issue.
High five. All right. So, no, I think the one thing that they didn't explain, they started it off, but they didn't keep it going. Well,
We'll all interrupt.
sorry, for Superman. For Superman. No, they just didn't. I felt they kind of started it off, how essentially the ideology of Superman thought Batman was he's destroying people's rights. He needs to stop this, yada, yada, yada. I felt how they started that was good. It's like, okay, they both have different images of how you should stop crime. Okay, Batman thinks you can beat the fuck out of people and kill them.
Right.
Superman thinks you should let the law and justice do all that.
But he also beats the fuck out of people and kills them.
Well, he doesn't beat the fuck out of him. He kills them.
I mean, you can assume he kills that guy at the beginning. That he flies through a stone wall or whatever. But I'm sorry. Continue. I didn't mean.
No, that's good. No, I mean Superman says he didn't kill him, but that's a little relative.
Yeah.
I thought he killed him, but
it's kind of like how they like ham-fist in those scenes of like, there's nobody there, and
don't worry, that island's uninhabited. Don't worry, guys, that island's uninhabited.
I did get a laugh there. You guys are hating. I was like, oh, no one's there, and I was like,
I don't remember you getting a laugh.
You
But
didn't get a
go
laugh.
ahead, continue.
No, I just think they should have kind of kept it going to where at least the reason why they fought in the whole fucking first place should have just been, hey, you shouldn't be taking care of villains this way. You should need to do it this way. And Batman just pretty much like, fuck you, I'm gonna do it the way I'm going to want to. But they kind of shifted it to where kind of towards the middle of the movie where Lex Luthor kidnaps Martha Kent and says, hey, I'm going to kill her if you don't do this. And I think that kind of shifted it a little to a different direction. I didn't like. I mean,
Yeah.
I made that specifically that scene, like when Superman says the next time the bat signal goes off,
Don't show up.
Don't show up. If you do again, I'll kill you.
Well, he didn't say that. He just says don't.
He
go,
implies
don't go.
pretty heavily that like I will
don't go to it.
fuck you up if you ever try to be Batman again. It just felt so out of character for Superman because he had no involvement with Batman previously. He had seen a couple news reports, fair enough, but like he had no incentive to show up to another city where he's not involved with anything. Tell this guy you have to stop being who you are and doing what you do, and he threatened him in a very un-Superman-like way. I felt like the whole movie he keeps saying like I could kill you, but I'm not gonna. And like that's a very un-Superman-like thing to do to me. It felt very weird how he kept like threatening people and saying I could kill you and not doing it, or threatening them. Like he was threatening people all the time in this movie.
And the weird thing is, all the elements were there to just have Lex Luthor being the puppet, the behind the curtain or whatever, manipulating the puppeteer, I should say, manipulating Superman and Batman to make them fight. And you're right. And then instead of and they could have maybe explained why Superman is really trying to go hard at Batman.
It felt so out of
place. And he's pushing Batman further. But then in the end, it just comes down to he's like, I got your mom, so you better go kill him.
Yeah, they gave Batman all the reasons in the world to dislike Superman. So at that side you can see it. But Superman just kind of like really went from 0 to 60 on disliking Batman to the point where he showed up and just threatened him, and it just felt really weird and fast and
it
sudden.
barely made sense on why Lex even wanted them to fight when he had Doomsday
ready to go.
bun in the oven basically. He just needed to buy that extra hour. Like if he
had
didn't
him ready
push,
for the third act.
Yeah, if he didn't like let him know he had an hour and just made Doomsday.
Well, Zack Snyder told Lex Luthor, "Hey, the movie's longer than that. Can you buy me some time?"
To go to my cons list, which is a little bit longer than the pros list.
Figured that already.
One of my pros: Superman's suit is the right color. Batman's suit is the right color. The motivation for their fight is paper thin. And do you guys remember why Batman?
They don't? Why they stop fighting?
Well, Batman won.
Can I tell
Spoilers.
you?
He says Martha's what?
And can I tell you? I imagine that Goyer and his team of writers, they probably had this aha.
Both their moms have the same name.
They were looking at a board and they were like, "Wait a minute, Martha Kent."
I've never even thought of that.
Wait a minute, Martha Wayne. I started thinking it when they kept showing her grave and it said Martha Wayne. I was like, "Oh yeah."
and they even
Kent?
He has a
covering his father's name. They kept covering. Was it Thomas Wayne? They kept covering Thomas's grave on purpose just to make sure you only saw Martha.
He has a spear over his head, and Superman's about to die.
But that's one of those things, Jim. That reminds me of the Back to the Future thing you always make fun of, where they're like, "Hey, the thing you never noticed is when he goes back in time, it's not Twin Pines anymore." And you're like, no, everybody noticed that. This movie thought that no one had ever noticed that two of the most popular comic book characters in the world, both parents were named Martha.
What?
I mean, it's an interesting little coincidence, but to have that hinge your whole thing.
He stopped from killing him right there. With his spear.
It's so flimsy, yeah. And I mean, it was a cool moment when, and they gave it away in one of the last trailers, when Superman goes to throw a punch and Batman blocks it, and he's confused. That's cool moment.
Yeah.
In the trailer, I just assumed he had a superpower suit or something.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was a kryptonite grenade.
Yeah, suit
And
didn't
it's
do
great.
shit.
It's even great because I remember when Man of Steel came out, wasn't Zack Snyder like, we're not going to use fucking kryptonite? That's bullshit. Like,
Yeah, he was
and
shitting
then
all
immediately they're like, well, we're going to
He
get
even
kryptonite.
argued
like,
that kryptonite doesn't exist in his version of Superman.
Yes,
In this
yeah.
universe, it doesn't exist. And it's like, oh, never mind, making a new movie.
I do think part of it was they were like being sued where they couldn't use it or some shit by like the estate of the creator of Superman.
Oh, really?
But I think they finally settled or something.
Well,
but
the estate
but I
should
do
have
remember they were going hard like kryptonite. That's fuck that.
Take
We're
that,
not gonna have
Mrs.
kryptonite.
Kane, you idiot.
And they
Fake ass shit.
and they really fucking shoehorned in because it's in the Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns. I think it's in one of those where the nuke hits Superman and he's all fucked up, and then the sun brings him back. And they just
He looked so stupid when
They
he was up there looking like looking like fucking Solomon Grundy.
But it undercuts the death of Superman because we just saw him die and come back, and maybe they think it's like, no, that's foreshadowing that he can come back. And even though we all know he's going to come back, Mike had a great line because it's like again, like they go back. I mean, this movie never gets away from the shitty editing because it's like they're doing an interesting thing where it's the big city metropolis Superman funeral, you know, contrasted with the Clark Kent funeral with just his family and close friends. But then for some reason they're cutting to Jesse Eisenberg too, getting his head shaved, and then they're cutting to Batman doing mystical.
Which, by the way, that's this movie's version of why Lex Luthor's bald, because I guess in prison they shave your head.
His head. And then they cut to Batman showing up at like you know they do, the goof is how he shows up and disappears, but this shows you like how he literally can just magically show up.
Yeah.
Unless that's a vision, I don't know what they were doing.
I don't
dream.
think that was a vision.
But but then they cut back and Bruce Wayne's at the thing, and then it's great because they're going forever, and then Lois still has the hand of
Yeah, she has
dirt
a
she
handful
had
of dirt.
20 minutes ago.
What did I
and then
say? I
Mike
said,
just goes,
okay, how much longer are we going to
Mike
pretend
goes,
Superman's
how much
dead?
longer are we going to pretend Superman's dead? And and they hold it right up to the end.
What did
for
that
Justice
mean?
League Search for Superman?
I didn't understand like why the shit was floating above him.
It
Like,
just-
Because
Because
he'll
that means
rise
he's
again.
still alive.
Yeah,
Like
he'll
if you remember from Man of Steel, which you probably don't because you hate, but like when they fly, like the ground or pieces of the ground kind of
floats.
float up.
Yeah,
when
he'll
they're
rise
alive,
again.
So yeah, that means he's alive.
like Batman lifted by bats.
Now, I have a question about the funeral. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm stupid. Isn't it kind of strange that everyone cared that Superman was dead when like
they all
villain?
hated him.
Well, they all hated him.
Well, this is
But he didn't redeem himself. And in my opinion, all he did was the same thing he had done in the first movie that
And
everyone
that's
hated
why-
him
well,
for,
and this is
except
why-
in I guess a slightly less crowded part of town. No
It's
one that
uninhabited.
but no one that hated him before would change their mind because he saved the city from Zod before, and Zod was arguably a bigger danger than Doomsday
and
was.
that's why Doomsday's so boring because it gets us to a point where it's just the end of Man of Steel again.
Yeah,
They
and-
do the end of Man of Steel
Well, and
again.
people probably knew Zod existed. No one knew Doomsday existed.
Yeah, I can't even think,
And
like-
so people wouldn't have even been happy that he saved them necessarily. So people's opinions shouldn't have changed yet. Like it seemed like the movie was like, well, Superman died, so now we all forgive him
Well, and
because he died, I guess.
The weird thing about Doomsday, was he ever attacking the public in any way? It only seemed like he was just fighting Batman and Superman. Like
No,
he
yeah,
wasn't
that
a
was
threat
it.
to anyone other than Batman and Superman. Who cares if Doomsday is taken down? Good. That guy that's taking down Superman, well, I'm glad he's dead, but
Well,
Superman's
and
the
then,
worst too.
And then also it was real weird when Superman's like, I want to fly Doomsday up into space, and then 3 seconds later they have a nuke locked onto him. I guess like
Yeah.
they immediately like they
have no faith in
It is
Superman.
like okay, Superman's flying into space, 1 beat, 2 beat, and the nuke is launched. Like the nuke, they launched that nuke so fast that the movie doesn't even give you time to like.
They've just been
to
waiting
catch
for
your
Superman
breath
to
and
go to
blink
space.
before they're launching a nuke into
because
space.
they just wanted to shoehorn in. They wanted to shoehorn as much as they could from the Dark Knight Rises or whatever, Dark Knight
Returns.
Returns, and then they wanted to squeeze in the death of Superman as well, and they also wanted to squeeze in like all this other shit and. I don't know.
Yeah, Batman
just
killed Elektra.
Suffers. It just really suffers because of it. And yeah, Wonder Woman's whole point is she's trying to get a picture. Like,
Yeah,
that's why she's there
She's
the
in
whole
my
time.
cons list.
Yeah, it's a picture of her dressed like Wonder Woman back in the day, and it's like, I don't know. If anyone saw that, it'd just turn into that fucking Nicolas Cage as a vampire meme,
Yeah.
and no one would take it serious.
Well, and plus it'd be like, all right, we don't know who this lady is. Like,
Yeah.
she's not like she's on a reality star or some shit.
Can we talk about that Alfred and Ben Affleck are the exact same age?
yeah, that Alfred was like, why? He looked a little younger than Ben Affleck.
yeah. How did he raise
Jeremy Irons looked younger than Ben Affleck.
But,
Also, I mean, nothing against, but like Alfred added nothing to this movie at all.
Yeah.
Like at all. Like I think he's supposed to be the voice of reason, and he is like once, but they have enough conversations where like he should be this crazy voice of reason like every single time, or else he didn't really justify. He was like the Lois Lane of this movie, where neither of them had any reason to be in this movie.
No, he's just like a Jewish mom. He's like, when are you going to settle down? Have some kids. Like, shut up. Hell, you're hungry. Don't tell me you're not hungry. I'll make some pasta.
Pasta bonjour.
Oh, I forgot. The first time we see Batman. When he's like being a creep in the corner. Like,
yeah. It's like a horror
up in the
movie.
corner, like looking like a first off, if you walked in that room, you would see that immediately. It doesn't matter how dark the room is, just kind of like
see a guy.
in the room, just like, oh. And then like the guy's like shining his flashlight, and you just see Batman kind of like, oh hello, it's me, Batman.
Yeah, they shot it they tried to do it like a horror movie reveal. Like that's usually where the monster's like behind you, and it's like the scary.
But no,
reveal.
it's just Batman just like up like he's on the cross, like in the corner of the room, like in the weirdest way. It was just a weird way. We're like, oh, it's the first time I get to see Batman.
But I honestly, I just think the biggest issue is it's just a mess of a movie. Like there's
no love for the
way
characters.
too much going on.
Also, Jim, what's the plot of this movie? Just
that's what I mean. Like,
sum it up real quick. Like, give me the elevator pitch.
I mean, Batman doesn't like Superman. We don't really know why. Superman doesn't like Batman. We don't really know why. Lois is off doing some sort of investigation. Wonder Woman's trying to get a picture. Lex Luthor's mad at everyone, and we don't really know why. And then Doomsday shows up.
And that's the weird thing. This is why I hated Man of Steel. Like we all came out of the movie fucking like that movie was frustrating. But this movie was worse. This movie was worse than Man of Steel. None of us thought that was palpable.
I think it is worse.
It's weird because
No,
it's
because
it's
I
not
look
worse, but it is worse.
I saw you guys saying it's worse than Green Lantern. I'm not ready to go that far.
Well,
I feel like you guys are being this is the best movie guys after seeing a movie you really like.
I say it's worse
I feel
than
like
Green
it's
Lantern
too
because they're
fresh.
Oh well, I thought Man of Steel was worse than Green Lantern.
No, but you're saying that. Oh,
you
well,
like Green Lantern though.
but you're saying that this movie's worse than Green Lantern.
No, that's what I thought. Man of Steel was worse than Green Lantern, and I think this movie's worse than Man of Steel.
I don't know if this is worse than Green Lantern.
I mean, Green
I
Lantern
feel like
wasn't-
Green Lantern had no love behind it. This kind of almost had some love behind it, and then complete disrespect.
I felt like Green Lantern wasn't good, but like Man of Steel was atrocious, and I think this
Yeah.
movie was worse. And I look at Man of Steel and I almost go like it's weird that they came out in the other order because I thought there was nothing redeemable about Man of Steel, and now I'm looking at it and being like, well, at least it had a story.
Although,
Like,
yeah,
at least
I
it had
don't
a
know,
plot.
because I remember. I mean, I haven't seen it since we saw it, but I remember thinking Green Lantern's very atrocious as well.
Yeah,
so
like, I
guess it's like
it's
you know,
more like I love these.
it's like, am I going to eat this piece of shit or this piece of shit?
Just for me in my head, like the worst two movies I've seen in recent memory were Man of Steel and Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I think those are not only the worst two comic book movies I've ever seen, and I didn't see Fantastic Four. I've heard that's awful. You told me about how bad it is.
Yeah, it's hard for me. I don't even know. I guess it's on par with Amazing Spider-Man 2.
But
It's
yeah,
very close.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Man of Steel were just the worst. So
I'll
obviously,
absolutely take
Green
Amazing
Lantern's
Spider-Man
not
over
great,
this.
but it's above Man of Steel to me. Like to me, Man of Steel and Amazing Spider-Man 2 were in a fucking league of their own. And I did not. Again, at the very beginning, I was wondering if it was going to be steps forward or leaps forward or bounds forward.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait, what? How did this take a step back from Man of Steel? What is going on? How on earth
tough
did this
'cause
movie wind up worse than Man of Steel?
It's almost like it's not worse than Man of Steel, but it's Man of Steel for two properties, so it makes it worse. Because Man of Steel, I feel like is probably worse, but it's ruining
it's weird.
But I don't like Superman,
It
so I was
feels
like,
like it's
whatever.
worse than Man
but
of
I like
Steel.
Batman.
But Man of Steel at least tells a story. Like
Yeah.
there's a plot in Man of Steel.
That's true.
Yeah.
There's more plot line. With
like
Man
I
of
remember when I was watching that movie, and it's like when you're in a dream and things don't make sense later. In my head, I thought like, man, I wish things that were happening in Man of Steel were happening in this movie. And then I go, why did I say that? Because it occurred to me that like Man of Steel had a progression of some type, and this movie just had no. There was no. I guess like the whole buildup was like the movie's called Batman vs Superman. So when are they gonna fight? That was the buildup, is waiting for them to fight because that's what the movie is called.
And the why of them fighting doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's just. Honestly, I was just kind of speechless. I was just kind of like, wow, I don't like. I don't know. I
was crying laughing during parts of it.
Zack Snyder has strengths as far as like.
Wait, whoa! What are you doing, Jim?
No, I thought
you dug yourself in a hole.
I thought Dawn of the Dead was good, and I thought 300 was good.
Oh, you made Dawn of the
honestly,
Dead?
I feel like
that was
these
his first
movies.
movie.
I feel like these movies prove that 300's not good. I feel like if I watch 300 now, I don't think that.
Well,
I would think that was good.
There's that great party trick of how many times have you seen 300, Mike? If it's more than once, you're gay. It's a movie for gays. It's a bunch of shirtless men slow motioning.
I mean, some of his visuals are strong. A lot of people were praising the action in this film. I honestly didn't think the action was that good in this movie.
Remember when Batman's in the desert and he was fighting guys? I remember. Did I already say this?
You said it on the Watch This.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It was coming out of Daredevil. I was very underwhelmed with almost all the fight scenes involving Batman, except for a couple things in that last warehouse fight where he was like doing very Batman-y things.
Yeah.
When he was just doing like hand-to-hand fighting, it was very, very underwhelming. And again, maybe it was just coming out of like,
so like
Daredevil
encumbered.
was like some of the best fight scenes I've ever seen. So it's like fair enough. You're comparing those two things, but like they were way worse than Daredevil's. Like it was like it's kind of embarrassing watching these awful like the hand-to-hand fight scenes in the desert when he's fighting the guys, compared to like anything that they had in Daredevil.
Is it really like the old like adage of like why Daredevil is good is because it doesn't go through the Hollywood system? Is like that what it is? Like does the Hollywood system fuck it to death?
I mean, I'm sure there was some studio interference just as far as we need to build a franchise, but I feel like this is what Zack Snyder wanted to make. I don't feel like he wanted to do something else and was limited too much. I'm sure there was definitely some.
Well, Zack Snyder, in my case, is the Hollywood system.
Well, and Goyer's proven that he has zero vision, and he's not helping any of his.
You guys keep mentioning
he's the Joss
He's the
Whedon.
writer. Yeah.
Oh,
Like
wow.
he produces all the DC
we should be
stuff.
more mad at him then.
Well, no, he has.
No,
he's
he did all the
supposed to-
He did all the Dark Knight, Chris Nolan stuff.
He's
too.
supposed to be like the architect of a lot of DC's big franchise movies, and he's just proven he has no vision, and he doesn't
the
help any of
input.
his writers or directors make good movies, and he's not making good decisions. He's not overseeing things very well.
And I also think that these movies are proof that Nolan had more of a hand in some of those movies than Goyer did. I feel like
so much.
I feel like Goyer probably did kind of turn in some drafts or whatever, and then Nolan's like, we need to do this, this, and this. Maybe Dark Knight Rises, Goyer had his hands all over. But I mean, I think Goyer did like the Blade movies. I thought those were decent, except for Blade 3. Yeah, Blade 3 is terrible.
He directed that third movie.
He did, didn't he? Yeah,
there you
right.
go.
Yeah, he did direct that one.
Did Triple H in that movie?
But yeah,
Yes.
I feel like kind of Max Landis might have said it. It's just that I don't think Zack Snyder really likes these characters.
Oh no!
He had the best.
Max
video
Landis
about it.
made one good movie, and we're giving him the most
settle down.
credit in
Two
the
good
world.
movies.
But either way, I mean, that's
He did make two
like
good
because
movies.
What was the second?
American Ultra.
Did you not like American Ultra?
I haven't seen that. So
Okay,
so
Chronicle
A lot
and
of people
American Ultra are
didn't.
both good.
Yeah,
Don't
I
get me
think
wrong.
Chronicle.
I think that Landis can be a clown sometimes, but he also knows
His
a lot
video
of stuff.
about this encapsulates
yeah,
everything.
Well,
I'll
he-
play it.
and-
And honestly, I don't. The thing is with him, at least, I feel like he's doing what a lot of people, especially people like with kind of power in the industry, wouldn't do. I feel like he honestly believes he's not
He has
like
passion,
just.
yeah.
He's just saying like, I don't like this, or I mean, yeah, he might be over abundant about it sometimes, but at least he's kind of being truthful. It's like someone, we ask people, even people that are nobodies, we ask them who you beefing with, and they're really worried about what to say.
Yeah, and he's just immediately went into it.
And yeah,
He had a good tweet where he's like, "Star Wars feels like fan fiction. This feels like disdain for the
Yes.
character."
Yeah, or like I feel like Zack Snyder did want to make a Batman movie, and he had to make a Superman movie. That's why he made Man of Steel, and now he got to make a Batman movie, but he was
already has
stuck.
Batman.
Yeah, he was stuck already with having a Batman Superman. And so then he just had to make Batman even more Batman to even it out.
And Landis said something similar that I told Chad, because Chad was asking me what I thought about it. Obviously, I told him I hated it.
Yeah.
And he was asking me, and I know Chad's a gigantic Batman guy, so I brought up the whole, like, Batman didn't feel like himself in this movie. And I described it as, like, if you write a book and your main character's name is James Bond, that doesn't mean that James Bond is in your book. And I felt like that's what happened in this movie. Just because they were Batman and Superman does not mean that Batman and Superman were in this movie. Like
maybe there's something. Maybe it's because he's not Bruce Wayne. He's Deadshot or whatever. Not Deadshot. What was the character he's supposed to be from that
No,
theory?
he's
shit.
JGL, isn't he?
What
Or
was
no?
that theory?
wait,
No,
what was that
JGL's
awful
Joker.
theory? Yeah, what was that?
It's such a bulletproof theory. I can't even think of it.
He's resistant to shoot.
He's Christian Bale.
Yeah, shit. What was that awful theory?
No, Christian Bale. What was the Brazilian
I get
theory?
you gold resistant to shoot.
He's Brazilian. It's the Brazilian.
No,
theory.
it was Wade, not Slade Wilson. He said that he was Slade Wilson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he said that he was.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, that's who he came to the conclusion of.
Oh, the Ben Affleck is Slade Wilson.
Yeah.
That Christian Bale
Deathstroke.
Batman. That actually would
Deathstroke.
That's Slade Wilson.
That would absolutely
You know what? If
like,
that came
explain
out,
this movie.
yeah, it would be. Oh, that's why. It's
Like-
because he's Deathstroke.
We would go watch it again, like, oh, it's beat for beat perfect.
But yeah, that's why I agreed so much with Landis' thing, because that's what I felt like. A lot of people keep bringing up the Elseworld tales to defend this. It's like, settle down.
Elseworld Tales.
That's where you just take the characters and you do whatever the fuck
No,
you
I
want
know,
with
but
them.
like, what is their defense?
But,
like, using
well,
the
no,
what
that's
if-
the thing. That Elseworld Tales is, hey, take this character and do whatever the fuck you
Oh,
want
so
with
this
it.
is an Elseworld tale?
Well, but they never said that or anything, so it's like, quit using
Well,
that
did you see how
flimsy defense.
Do you see how Snyder's now saying that they are doing a multiverse, like with TV? Like, basically, it's just because
not
fans
doing that.
started saying it, so he's like, hey, we're really tied into this multiverse thing. So
yeah.
They're not doing that.
But
They're-
that, I mean,
this
I
is
think
Earth 69,
they're asking
apparently.
because again, like someone brought up like the Flash on
Flash
TV and why, and he's like, well, we're really committed to this multiverse thing right now. So
yuck.
No, I don't think they're gonna do. I think the only reason he said that is just because, if you watch the Flash show, he's the person who plays him. I forget his real name.
Grant
Grant
Gustin.
Yeah, he's a real good Flash on television. I think Zack Snyder just didn't want to be a dick and just say, hey, Grant Gustin, you don't have the acting chops to be in a movie.
although it would be a way
Or
for them to
honest-
one up, it would be a way for them to one up Marvel if they did do like a Crisis movie. If it did feel like they were building towards that, and I feel like they'll just do it as
They're
an afterthought.
accidentally go to
yeah,
Crisis.
they'll accidentally be like, hey, well, let's just do
And
it.
they'll go to Crisis for the same reasons the comic book went to Crisis, because they fucked everything up. They're like, all right, wait a minute. It's Crisis time. It worked in the comics, kind of.
Even outside of like acting stuff, what it really is like TV shows that with like great ratings are pulling in what like 5 to 10 million people.
Well, and
And
well,
great
and
movies are
also,
pulling in like
and also, yeah, CW
so many more.
CW
But-
great ratings are not the same as
if-
other networks.
If
great
every
ratings
single
either.
person
yeah,
on the
it's totally
planet that
different
watches
then.
The Flash also went to a movie, you'd be like a fraction of everyone that goes and sees a movie. So
Yeah.
what he's really saying is like, have fun on your little TV thing. I'm making
Yeah.
a movie, boy. Like that's what he's saying.
I'm going to get the gay dude.
They serve
Boy,
it a Flavor Flav.
hey, I'm making a
Have fun on
movie,
your TV,
boy.
Yeah, boy.
You know what?
I'm making Superman, boy.
Oh, Batman's committing manslaughter, boy.
Actually, I feel like that is Zack Snyder. That's probably me. Well, you meet him and he's like doing half pipe tricks, and he's like, "Oh, what if Batman was a dick?"
I just feel like in the end, it's just kind of like Zack Snyder is, he can make decent shots and has a decent vision, but they were like, "Hey, you should be a guy that builds a whole universe," and like I
that's
don't
not
think
him.
he's the guy.
Yeah.
I don't think it's his strong suit.
That's not him at all.
But anyways, did you have any rebuttals or any other things you want to say, Rodney, on the Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice?
Yeah,
No,
just
I mean,
us.
just look, movie was all right, not great. Not gonna sit here and act like it's the greatest fucking movie in the world. It isn't, but I think they laid good groundwork for the future movies. I don't know how y'all feel about Suicide Squad. I think that's gonna be pretty good, at least from one.
I think
Zack
that
Snyder's
I
not
think the
involved.
trailers want you to think it's Guardians of the Galaxy, but the movie isn't going to be that, and
You know,
I'm
weird-
wondering
I
what the
don't-
movie's going to be.
I still think it's going to be
think-
good, but in a weird way, this movie has really tempered my expectations a lot. Even though it's
mean,
not
one-
the same, it's just kind of been.
I like
weird.
Ayers.
I mean, one thing I'll say about the DC movies compared to even the Marvel movies is that they're. I seem to notice at least that they let the directors actually direct, and it's not the same fucking movie over and over again. I think
don't agree at all, though, 'cause every-
I think if you look at when Suicide Squad comes out, it's gonna look very fucking different than Man of Steel.
I agree with
or
that.
Batman
That
versus
makes
Superman.
sense.
It's not gonna be dark at all. It's gonna be.
I don't
Sort
think-
of
I don't know,
lighter to a
man.
degree. It's
I
gonna be
kinda
dark. It's
feel
gonna
like
be dark
it's-
compared to a Marvel movie, but I think compared to Batman versus Superman, it's gonna be a lot more lighter. I personally think Suicide Squad's gonna be better, just because I like David. I think I like David Ayer, and
from what
I
I've
like his
seen,
movies.
it looks like the same though. It does. I do think he's going to be able to put his own little spin on it for sure. But as far as like a look and aesthetic and tone, maybe it'll be a little bit more wisecracky. But it still looks to be the gritty. I don't know. It looks like it's.
I couldn't
well
picture-
to me, it looks like it's hand in hand with Man of Steel.
I
and
couldn't picture
Batman
those
versus Superman.
characters in those costumes standing next to that Batman and that Superman in their costumes.
I totally could. They look almost the same. They look. They could all be skipping down the street to me, just holding hands. I mean, maybe since one of the guys an alligator or whatever, that's
Okay,
a little
yeah.
weird. But everything else, I feel goes right with it.
It's tough
Since one of the guys is an alligator.
But that, I mean, because at that point, I would think,
crocodile.
wouldn't you think the same thing about the Flash? Then, because the Flash was so out of left
I don't
field
think
in that movie.
because one
yeah,
thing
I don't I
the-
hate the casting of Ezra Miller. I've hated that from the get-go.
Well, no,
I
I just
don't-
mean,
you know what,
I just
friend,
mean
it's me,
a
the
character
Flash.
like the Flash existing in this
Oh
world.
yeah, no, yeah, I agree. I don't think he makes any sense.
Well, one thing, the other writer on Batman vs Superman, Chris Terrio, he's the guy who wrote Argo with Ben Affleck, the other guy who wrote the movie. He said that Justice League is going to be a lot lighter. It's not going to be anything like Batman vs Superman for as far as a tone is concerned. So I think the other movies, they're not going to be like a fucking funeral happened throughout the entire
that
movie
was
with
like
Batman.
people make
Except
that joke.
Superman's dead,
It's-
so they're gonna have to
It's
do a
so
lot of stuff
it's
with
not
that.
fun. It's
Like
so
people,
unfun.
people
So-
make the jokes of how deadly serious these movies are, but like, God, this movie was just so serious.
There was like 2 jokes in it. Like everyone was like relieved that a joke happened. They're like, oh,
Well,
wow.
no, but I feel like some of their jokes were like, "Look, Batman branded that guy." is that funny?
Yeah.
They gave all the jokes to Alfred, I think.
It all hinges on. I love Jared Leto, but it all hinges on how that performance goes. I feel like because that
I
can
honestly-
either
That
make or
movie,
break
yeah.
the whole movie.
I'll give you. I can.
I
give
feel
you that
like
one.
the Joker's gonna be in that movie, not that much at
Probably
all.
Yeah, me
I
and
feel
Jim
like
have
we've
ta-
seen like almost a piece of every scene he's gonna be
I
in.
bet we've seen 70% of his
Except,
involvement in that
I
movie.
guess maybe they're holding back the old flashback with if they put in the Robin
Beaten Todd,
flashback.
yeah.
Well, I mean, there's already the nightclub scene with Batman in it, so
yeah.
that's supposed
And-
to be a flashback.
And also, if they're really gonna have a flashback where it shows the Joker brutally murdering Robin, I don't see this tone change that
But
we're gonna
that would
get.
be great though.
No, I mean it'd be fine. I'm fine with it. I just I don't know. It just doesn't look. I guess they'll try to have a little bit more humor, like dark humor to it.
well, but that's the thing. I don't know if they are. The trailer wants you to believe that, but I don't think the movie.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think they will, just because of if you look at David Ayer's movies, he kind of has that. Like End of Watch, they had those little dark jokes. Like for instance, where Michael Pena fought the dude in the house. The guy's just like, hey, if you whoop my ass, you can take me to jail.
Although
Yeah.
End
Okay.
of Watch,
So I think
End of Watch is
they'll have that.
great, but for every End of Watch, there's also a sabotage. So it depends on what David Ayer we're gonna get here.
Oh, we're getting Sabotage Squad for sure.
Because there's that I put it on my Vine where because Jai Courtney, he's in this movie too. He's in Suicide Squad, isn't he? Because he's in Sabotage.
Yeah,
and there's
he's
a scene.
Captain Boomerang.
There's a scene where he's just going like he's just freaking out, yelling about something. He's like, I was a fucking A. And I'm like, all right, man, here we go. Let's do this, Jai.
Best take.
Isn't that the most emotion you've ever seen out of a Jai Courtney
Oh,
role? though?
absolutely, absolutely.
Who'd have thought that Captain Boomerang would make Jai Courtney's career?
I mean, in the end, like
At least he's Australian.
I get a lot of people. There's superhero fatigue. I mean, we talk about Jake's kind of done with these, which is I understand that.
I
but,
wouldn't have seen this if you guys didn't get me a ticket.
Well, for me, and it just because I mean, I don't follow the comics close, but I have a good amount of comics. I've read a lot of these comics. I do enjoy it. So it is still cool enough for them to nail it most of the time. So yeah, I'm excited for Suicide Squad. I don't know if I'm excited for a Wonder Woman movie, really.
I'm not even going to see
Although
that.
I
have
will
zero interest
say,
in that.
say that Wonder Woman was one of the
Oh,
strongest
yeah, we didn't even
parts of this
we didn't
movie.
even talk about her in the movie, but to me,
She's-
it's because she was utterly forgettable.
But
I can't
she
think of anything she did.
boring, and
probably,
I had nothing
thought
out of
she was
her.
one of the best parts of the movie, but maybe because she wasn't in it a lot, and maybe because like the other stuff wasn't that great. But I thought she was a strong aspect of the movie. At least
she
one
just
of the
didn't make
positives.
sense in the movie.
I got nothing out of her. I thought she was bland as fuck.
And then so it goes what? Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, then Justice League,
Yeah.
or is there another movie?
They're gonna
that's
add
the
a
right
couple
order right
in
there.
there, I'm sure.
Is Ben Affleck Batman in Justice League?
Yeah,
Or I thought it was JGL. Or
Yeah, and then
no.
Ben Affleck could be. They always.
They said that
Oh,
a
I thought
while
you were
ago.
bitten.
Well, and then the JGL's movie got shut down, so whatever.
And they keep hinting at Affleck like writing and directing possibly a standalone.
You're talking about
Batman.
Batfleck?
Yeah, Batfleck.
I would
Okay.
be fine.
He's gonna do that.
He didn't have a chance to.
He's
even
gonna do it with
show me
Jeff
anything.
Johns, so he's gonna do that.
He didn't show me anything in this movie. I don't have an opinion on him. People say he's great. People say he's bad. He didn't show me anything in this movie.
I don't know why
anyone
people
could have been
hate
in
him.
his role.
He's made two
I
bad
don't. Yeah,
movies. Like,
I've said that too. Like, name all the bad Ben Affleck. I think I had this discussion with you at work. What are all the bad Ben Affleck movies? There's like
and
two.
it's all everyone's those Daredevil Jiggly. It's like name another one.
Yeah,
Oh.
they're all
Really?
fire. They're all fire after that. Phantoms. He's the shit in Phantoms.
He sucked in Geely though.
Well, yeah, duh.
I haven't seen the whole thing of Geely, but even Geely, it's just kind of a whatever movie that became this,
like a joke.
Like, let's act like it's the worst movie type of thing. I mean, believe me, I don't think it's good, but there's like a million of those movies that come out all the time that no one really says anything about.
Reindeer games.
I mean, we've gone a long time. We'll take a quick break so we can come back for a little bit for a part 2. Unless we add in, is there anything else we have on this Dawn of Just Us?
Go see Dawn of Justice. I hope it makes a lot of money, boys.
It's the worst movie I've seen probably in the last 10 years.
Go see it. Get your own opinion.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah, I want to say that. I just don't want to. I don't want to say it yet.
I don't think people should give this money their movie. I think it's disgusting. I think it's disgusting that you would give these people your money. This is an awful movie.
I do feel kind of dirty that we.
I'm sort of annoyed that I didn't just buy a ticket.
But
to
it was
going to
make that money anyways. That's the problem. It's going to be Deadpool anyways. Like, it doesn't matter. It's Batman and Superman.
And I mean, I could see that you can write us off as Marvel fanboys, I guess, but
Marvel would be killing the game right now.
I feel like,
but it's easy to like them because they make good movies. It has nothing to do with Marvel. It has to do with good movies.
Yeah, Raul. Doomsday did look like shit. He did look like the troll.
Same movie.
He did look like the troll from Lord of the Rings.
Ant-Man is exactly the same as Guardians of the Galaxy. Eat my ass, Rodney.
It's the same fucking movie.
Eat my. I'll put that on a shirt.
But also like Batman vs Superman is the same movie as Man of Steel. Like the end is exactly the same, except they go out of their way to tell us that there's no one around because they just fly into things.
It's uninhabited.
And they're like, or even like, it's down in the business district, but thankfully it's after business hours, so everyone's gone home. Don't worry, there's no one around.
Don't worry, there's no people in that part of the city. Batman killed them all already.
Just maids and janitors in there. Who gives a fuck?
Everybody in New York and Avengers live, though, right?
And yeah, but at least like
shut up! Don't talk about Marvel that way.
The thing is, I don't need to think that everyone lived, but I need to see at least an effort. I need to see an effort. Like there are moments at least where it's like, hey, get people over here and save these people. I need that because if you don't have it, it's just so much more in your face.
Their goal was to defend the city. Superman just happened to be fighting in a city, and so the city was like the playground he got to fight in, where the Avengers were, I guess, like playing the role of like a National Guard. Where like we got to fight what's here. We also got to try and help people and rescue people. Like it was an effort that was going on.
Well, one other thing I did want to point out for like if you want to turn this into a Marvel versus DC thing,
which everyone does, Jim.
There's Marvel is untouchable with DC. DC put all those or Snyder, whatever, Warner Brothers put everything in place to have, you know, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman in this final fight. They do not come up with anything cool of them being a team.
Oh yeah,
they don't have a moment. They don't have a moment of Iron Man blasting Captain America's shield or Hulk catching. They don't have that. I mean, they have a moment where she lassos him and then he shoots him.
But that's just to hold him still. Like they should have done cool things with each other.
They don't have a cool team. And honestly, if they thought about it enough to have a guy say there's uninhabited, instead of just having maybe a couple people and Wonder Woman and Batman are saving people while Superman's fighting, or the
Batman's
other way
branding
around.
Those civilians.
Because honestly,
you're better off, Dad. He's shooting them in the head.
He has his brand gun and then his machine gun on his other hand.
Because for me, anyways, personally, I don't know if I can't speak for everyone else. That would go a long way of like, this is cool, like this is fucking awesome.
Yeah, having them be a team fighting and not just three people together fighting.
Well, I don't remember anything about that second Avengers movie that everyone hates or loves, but the best part is the team fighting at the beginning.
And even going to, we are Marvel fanboys, going to Daredevil Season 2, and we're talking about it on the show we'll be putting up on the Patreon. There's the opposite effect. Daredevil and Punisher are fighting side by side, and Daredevil has to stop Punisher from killing people while he's fighting. People, and it's so fucking
and it's
cool.
the dopest fight scene.
It's such a cool idea, and I don't know. You put all these things in place to set it up, and then there's not someone behind the scenes that thinks of these cool things or puts that in there. And to me, that's a shame. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
But I guess we talked about that a long time.
I was wondering if we were going to be able to do a part 1 and a part 2 all about this.
I mean, we probably could, but let's take a quick break and then we'll come back for a shorter part 2. I mean, because we're going to be
encapsulated right
yeah,
there,
I do want to play this because it's basically kind of what we've been saying. Just a little
friend of the
quicker.
show, Max Landis.
Yeah. rainbow-headed friend of the show.
Max Landis.
You can always trust their opinions.
All right, we'll be back.
I keep getting messages asking for me to talk about Batman versus Superman. Because, regarding Clark, you have strong opinions on these characters. Sit down, get a good camera, record an opinion video. So Batman kills people in this movie. Superman dies at the end. Wonder Woman's barely in it, and then she shows up at the end. Flash and Aquaman and Cyborg are on TV screens. What's wrong with Batman? Lex Luthor's one of his main plot points involves a jug of pee. What's wrong with this movie doesn't need an analytical dissection. This is not a Superman movie or a Batman movie or a Wonder Woman movie or a DC Comics movie. And it's not pretending to be one. It lets you know right out the bat that this is a different thing. It's not interested in being true to these characters as we've understood them. Or any version, really, of these characters as we've understood them. You know, Batman's killed people before, sort of, but not as a habit. It's not a DC Comics movie. I mean, it says DC at the front. But, you know, it's like, it doesn't have that much in common with the properties involved, I guess. You know, it's sort of like a gritty, dark Batman Forever. And God, the 9/11 stuff is back, and I want to be grandiloquent, like summon up this passion, have all these criticisms, and say all this stuff, and this and that, and sound really smart, and sound really informed, and make you think about this in a new way, but no one needs to think about it in a new way. Everything that could be said is being said by everyone. This is not a Superman movie or a Batman movie. Wonder Woman wants to get a picture back? There's nothing to say.